What is up, everybody? Today we are doing the 24th shelf of my action movie collection. Starting off with Tom Cruise with Valkyrie. I believe this is the first movie that him and Christopher McQuarrie first worked on. Yep, Christopher McQuarrie wrote it. So this is where they met and started their relationship. Great cast in this movie. Pretty good, solid movie about World War II. So definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it before. Then we have Catwoman with Halle Berry. This was not very good at all. I don't even know if I would really recommend this to anyone. I mean, Halle Berry's hot in it, but that's about it. Anne Hathaway does it way better as Catwoman, in my opinion. But otherwise, yeah, not a real strong supporting cast either, so it is what it is. One of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of DC movies. Then we have Constantine with Keanu Reeves. I guess they're making a sequel to this, 20-something years after the fact. I thought it was okay. I don't think it needed a sequel. I'm not going to be running out to go and see the sequel to this, but, to each their own, I guess. Then we have Freedom Land with Samuel L. Jackson and Julianne Moore. I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've seen this movie, so I don't exactly remember all of it. I just kind of remember that I was kind of underwhelmed with it. For what reasons, I don't know. Reading the cast, it had a pretty stellar cast here. So it couldn't have been because of that. Maybe the story itself was just lacking in some way. Comment down below if you have seen this movie recently and what you think about it. Then we have Unleashed with Jet Li and Morgan Freeman. Talk about a rare, weird combination. This one was okay. I don't think, a lot of people seem to love this movie. I only thought it was okay. The martial arts was pretty good. But I'm a bigger fan of Romeo Must Die. And some of Jet Li's other work, Cradle to the Grave, War. This is not in his top movies for me. Then we have Lord of War with Nicolas Cage and Jared Leto. Another movie I guess they're making a sequel to now. Again, this was right when Nicolas Cage was making every movie he could get his hands on before it went straight to DVD. So he was still in theaters at this point. And I was not a huge fan of this movie. Not Nicolas Cage's best work. This was kind of his downturn in my opinion right here. Comment down below on which movie you think was kind of the downturn for Nicolas Cage as far as starting to go straight to DVD. Then we have We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. Pretty solid Vietnam War movie. I've seen better, but still pretty solid. It's Mel Gibson being Mel Gibson with some pretty big names. Not huge names, but pretty big names. But, yeah. It's okay movie. Then we have The Last Time with Michael Keaton, Brendan Fraser, and Amber Valletta. This was actually a solid watch. This is one of those movies where you really kind of don't get what everyone's angle is until the very end. So 100% worth watching if you haven't seen it before. I would recommend this for sure. Then we have The General's Daughter with John Travolta. This was a very solid kind of murder, mystery, crime thing. Kind of like in the vein of A Few Good Men. Obviously not as good as A Few Good Men, but still a very solid watch. I would recommend this to watch for sure. And Simon West, old school action director, directed it. So, fun watch. Then we have Young Guns. Who doesn't like a good Western with an amazing cast? This has it all right here. One of the better Western movies made for sure. God, I hope they don't remake this movie. I'd like to see original ideas instead of reboots of reboots of reboots. Then we have Young Guns 2, which was just as good as the first one in my opinion. I enjoyed it just as much. So, Of course, they watered it down with it being a sequel and all. They didn't want it to be all super violent and all that stuff. They wanted to appeal to larger audiences. We all know that always works out, don't we? Then we have Cobra with Sylvester Stallone. This is a dark movie. I guess this was the movie that he wanted Beverly Hills Cop to be, because he was originally going to make Beverly Hills Cop. And I guess they said it was too dark and too violent, and this was that movie. So, yeah, I mean, it's an okay movie. It's not his best work, but it's a fun watch if you're a Stallone fan. Then we have The Town with Ben Affleck, Rebecca Hall, John Hamm, Jeremy Renner, and Blake Lively. An amazing cast, an amazing movie. Ben Affleck shows that he can really do really well behind the camera as well as in front of the camera. So, I mean, not enough good things about this movie. Check it out for sure. Then we have Dr. No with Sean Connery, classic James Bond here. You know, can't go wrong with this movie. Up until recently, this was probably one of the oldest movies I owned. Now I think I own a couple that are actually older than this. Then we have From Russia with Love. Again, great, solid, classic James Bond movie. Worth checking out for sure. I'd recommend all the James Bond movies for the most part if you haven't seen them before. Then we have Goldfinger, which a lot of people say is probably the best old school James Bond movie out there. And, you know, I would kind of tend to agree. You know, if it's not number one, it's probably number 2 or number 3. But yeah, definitely top 3 James Bond right here for old school James Bond. Then we have Thunderball. Pretty solid watch, you know. Sean, you know, it's still not the worst James Bond movie that Sean Connery's made, so solid watch. Then we have You Only Live Twice. This was one of Sean Connery's better James Bond movies, in my opinion. I wouldn't say it was better than Goldfinger, but still, it's up there for him. Then we have On Her Majesty's Secret Service. George Lazenby as James Bond here, because they couldn't get Sean Connery back. And this one was not as good, but still a solid watch. It's a little bit longer than the other ones too at this point in time, so meh. Then they paid Sean Connery a bunch of money to come back again to do Diamonds Are Forever. And this one was probably his worst James Bond movie, in my opinion. You know, I guess everyone's got to end somewhere. Then we have Live and Let Die with Roger Moore now as James Bond. Pretty unique James Bond movie here with the voodoo and all that type of stuff. So different take on James Bond here with him. Then we have The Man with the Golden Gun. Solid James Bond movie again, you know. Not my favorite, but still very solid watch. Then we have The Spy Who Loved Me. This would probably be my number 1 or number 2 James Bond movie as far as my favorite goes. As far as old school anyway. But yeah, this one would definitely be up there. I liked the whole hideout under the water that comes up out of the water, Jaws, you know, all that deal. Great movie, solid watch. Watch it if you haven't seen it before. Then we have Moonraker, which was probably the most outrageous James Bond movie out there as far as being in space. But again, you had Jaws, so interesting movie. You can never go wrong with a James Bond movie if you haven't seen it before. Then we have For Your Eyes Only, and this is probably my number 1 James Bond movie. I really like this one with Midnight. So 100% worth checking out. This is the one of the old school James Bond movies I would 100% recommend to anyone who hasn't seen it before. Then we have Octopussy, which is not very good at all. Probably one of Roger Moore's worst James Bond movies right here. You know, just a little, something just felt off about this one. Then we have A View to a Kill. Great James Bond movie. Oh, wait, just a second here. Was it? Oh, For Your Eyes Only was a slow one, too. This is the one that I was going to say was the best one. This is the one with Midnight right here. This is the one I would 100% recommend to anyone who hasn't seen it before. Because Christopher Walken is the villain in this movie. Absolutely phenomenal. Check it out. Then we have The Living Daylights with Timothy Dalton. This one was okay. Pretty good debut for James Bond. You know, Roger Moore was kind of starting to feel out of date, so it was nice for him to switch it up now to Timothy Dalton here. Solid outing. Then we have License to Kill. This is probably the darkest, most violent James Bond movie out there. You know, this is the one where he does an absolutely phenomenal job as James Bond. A lot of huge actors, that, or at least actors that turn out to be huge actors in this movie. So worth checking out for sure. Then we have GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan. Very solid outing here for James Bond. They came back with a bang with this one. And of course, with this came all the video games and everything like that. So, gotta love this one. Then we have Tomorrow Never Dies. Another solid James Bond movie. I wouldn't say it was his best James Bond, but, you know, it's up there. And this is what I think is Pierce Brosnan's best James Bond movie, The World Is Not Enough. Felt huge, felt like a grand scale kind of James Bond movie as compared to the other ones that seemed a little smaller in scale. Denise Richards as a scientist is hard to buy, though. That's the only thing I have with this movie. Then we have Die Another Day, Pierce Brosnan's final James Bond movie. Kind of seems like a remake of Diamonds Are Forever in a way. But I mean, still very solid, lots of action. You know, Halle Berry's in it. You know, Ricky Yoon does a great job in it. So Toby Stephens does a great job as the villain. Nothing bad about this one. Then we get to the best James Bond movie ever made, and that is Casino Royale. This is absolutely perfect in every way. Got rid of all the funky gadgets and went to more old school hand-to-hand combat. You know, wow, you know, car chases, foot chases, and all that stuff. A lot more physical, which I loved. And this movie was absolutely phenomenal. I would recommend this to anyone. Even if you're not a James Bond fan, you have to check this out. So, yeah, that'll do it for this shelf. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe. Your support is much appreciated. I'm also over on Letterboxd. The link to that is over in the profile of this channel. Otherwise, until next time, guys.